Hello, Internet. I want to share my thoughts about some things. Um, so when you're going through the twin flame journey, one thing that happens is your triggers are brought up, right? Like if you have any trauma or just whatever, all your triggers are brought up, right? And you're meant to look at them and heal them with a mirror exercise, love yourself, so that you don't get triggered by that same thing anymore. Um, Another thing that also happens is you have to let go of attachments. This is a topic that is becoming very important for me. And it's kind of, it's like a main lesson for everyone on their twin flame journey. But it's becoming very pertinent for me. And I'm noticing that attachment itself is a huge pattern in my life, in my twin flame story. Attachment itself is a pattern in my twin flame journey. In fact, when I got a romance report, which they're not available anymore, but I was one of the lucky few people on this planet to ever get a romance report from Jeff. I got it almost a year ago, like 10 months ago. And in it, one of the things that it said is your twin flame single? And the answer was, he's vibrationally single in his heart with a lot of attachments. So what I just want to really explore in this video is just what it means to have an attachment and my personal experience with attachments and why they're so bad or unhealthy, why they stand in the way of you and God, you and your twin flame, you and yourself. So there's a cartoon TV show called Avatar: The Last Airbender. And Aang is being throughout the show, Aang is being trained to be like a master. And I remember in one of the episodes, like a spiritual master. And in one of the episodes, I remember he's being told to let go of all of his attachments. And he lets go of everything. Except when he gets to Katara, I think that's how you say her name, his one true love, he can't let it go. He's like, I can't. I don't want to have to detach from Katara. She's my one true love. That feels bad. Why would I want to detach from love itself? And now that I'm thinking about it, I don't remember how that scene ended at all. Because I watched this 10 years ago or more than that even. But I just remember that because I remember I was watching it with my brother. He's the one who introduced me to that show. We would watch it together. And I remember I got really upset during that scene, and I made him pause the show, and I was was like, this is bullshit. I don't like this show anymore. If he has to detach from love, then I don't want to watch this show anymore. I hate it. This is not the show I thought it was. I just got really upset. And my brother said, just wait, watch the rest of it. Now I really wish I remembered how it ended. That would have been helpful information to look up before starting filming this, especially because I can't pause this because I'm filming it on my laptop and there's no option to pause the recording. I don't think. So, dang. It must not be important. But anyway, so when you have an attachment, that's what it feels like though. You feel like, oh, I really love this person. Why would I want to detach from it? That feels bad and cold. That feels like I'm going against what my heart says, right? Because my heart says love this person in this direction, but then I'm supposed to detach from it? Why? It seems like these things are at odds. How could I love something but be detached from it? It feels like that doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. But what is attachment? Attachment is holding on. In the simplest of terms, attachment is holding on. Holding on is not what we want to be doing. We want to be always surrendered. You can't be surrendered if anywhere in your vibration you're holding on to something. You have to be completely surrendered to be with God fully. You have to be completely surrendered to be with your twin flame, because it's the same thing, right? And so if anywhere in your consciousness, because surrendering energy is open and expansive. If you have an attachment, somewhere in your vibration, you're going like this. And you're like holding on when it needs to be like this. But hold on, you say. If I let go, that means it's gone. No. That's the lie. And that's where the seeming confusion comes in. You think, I love this thing or person, so I hold on to it, and that's how I keep it. That's the lie. I keep it by holding on to it myself. And if I let go, it means it's gone. But that's not true. And I'll tell you, I'm going to give like examples. And once again, you're probably on board for one of my infamous 45-minute to hour long, not rambling, because that means it's like pointless, but 45-minute to hour long thought train, because it really seems an impossibility for me to make a short video. It's just not in me. um, because I don't feel called to make like short, catchy videos. I feel called to make long, winding, let me unravel my thoughts that I've had on one subject for my whole life videos. Um, but I trust that since I'm being guided to do it, someone will benefit from it somehow, somewhere along the way. So we think that in order to keep something around, you must hold on to it, and that's how you keep it around. And so to let go of it, the only reason you wouldn't let go of something is because you fear that the second you do, it's gone from you and it's not yours anymore. But that's not the truth. The truth is you holding on to something is you corrupting it and you controlling it because you're not God. God holds everything in place. It'd be like if you thought that, it'd be like if someone was under the impression that they had to put the sun up in the sky every morning and take it down every night and bring the moon up. Like maybe somebody was born and their parents taught them, okay, every night you do this ritual dance and the moon will rise. And then every morning we wake up at this time and we do this ritual and that makes the sun come up. And then somebody tells you one day, like when you're in your 30s, you're not the one that's actually doing that. It happens on its own. And your whole reality's crushed. Because you've been made to believe that you do the ritual, you do the dance, and then the thing happens. The sun comes up and the moon comes up and and so that person tells you like, yeah, I don't do that. And the sun still comes up every morning and the moon still comes out every night. And you argue with them, yeah, well, but it's because I'm doing the ritual dance. I'm making it happen. Hello, you don't have to do it because I'm doing it. And you believe it so strongly because that's been your only experience. And what would happen to that person if they didn't do that for one night? Well, they would find that they're not the one that makes the sun come up every morning and the moon come out every night. God is the one who created everything, so God is the one that keeps everything going and keeps everything in place and keeps everything in order. Like, I don't control my breathing, right, either. You could just apply it to anything. And so if you attach yourself to something and hold on to it, it's out of control and fear and not trusting God to do God's job. You're thinking, I have to do God's job here. And so that's why attachment is separation from God. Because by the very nature of you feeling like you have to attach and hold on and cling, that that in and of itself is an expression of and reaction, a natural reaction of not trusting God. Does that make sense? You wouldn't attach if you trusted God fully, because you would feel no need. You're like, God's got it, God's got it, God's got it. I don't have to do anything. And that's what total surrender is. I don't have to do anything except love God. What an easy existence we all have, actually. So I've experienced this, I mean, everywhere in my life. But so just some examples though. Mm, every boyfriend I've ever had, I had major issues with attachment and being clingy and needy. I'm talking like borderline call the cops needy. Because I every time I dated somebody, I thought they were my everything. And the second I got a whiff of the possibility that they weren't my everything, um, I'm just like having memories pop up now. I was always in a state of panic every time I had a boyfriend because I wanted to make it work so bad. And that was just the problem. That was it right there. I thought I had to do the stuff to make it work. Um, I was always pushing, always needy, always clinging, always like that. And what happens when you're like that is you you're clinging to something that's not even there, and you're not letting the relationship speak to you and tell you what's actually happening. So you lose your sense of, you lose your true understanding in the reality of the situation in favor of that. um, Other examples from my life: college. Oh my God. This is probably the worst attachment I have ever had. Um, this took me, I mean, I was attached to the idea that if you don't go to college, you're a total failure and doomed to work at McDonald's forever. I held on to that idea from like, for as long as I can remember, and only just finally let that go. Maybe a year ago. This is this is deeply seated. Um, my entire life, I believed college is the only answer. And because I'm so intelligent, because I was good at school, I got straight A's, I was on the honor roll. Like, like I was literally Hermione Granger in elementary through high school. All my teachers loved me. I was in all the extracurriculars. And not only in all the extracurriculars, but like I would always end up being the leader of every extracurricular activity I went to. And it just seemed like I was born for school, and I succeeded at everything I did. Um, and so, I got into every college I applied to, and I went to University of Minnesota, and I didn't like it. I love learning, but I was looking at the price tag, and I was looking at what I was doing and what I would eventually get out of it. And I was also thinking of what I wanted to do with my life. And it seemed like all of these different things were not adding up. I was like, I can't afford to go to college just because I'm here. And so I dropped out. But I was so filled with guilt. I was so filled with self-loathing and self-judgment, and thinking I was the hugest failure for not finishing college, that I tried twice more, I'm at University of Milwaukee and MATC in Madison, and I dropped out both times then too. But I was attached to the idea of college. Is attached. So attached. I mean, I still am feeling right now some underlying like judgment towards myself. Well, that's okay. Um, yeah. So I was super attached to the idea of college being the only answer if I wanted a successful existence. And when I met my twin flame, one of the many things we talked about was that. And I remember I told him that I was going to move to Minneapolis and go back to school there and finish my degree. It's just so stupid now that I think about it. I told him, I was like, I'm going to move to Minneapolis this fall and I'm going to finish what I started. And that's what I thought God wanted for me. That's what I thought my life was calling me to do, is go back to where I dropped out, pick back up, and finish what I started. I really believed that. That all of my life experience had just been a journey to go back to end up going back to school and really finishing it. And I remember him looking at me and he was like, he seemed unimpressed. He had dropped out of college as well. Although he got like a nursing degree, like a really short program, like in nursing or taking care of old people or something like that. Just as I had gotten a really short-term journalism thing from the same tech school. But he looked at me and he was really unimpressed with my grand plan. And I was like, what? Because I could tell he was judging me. And he said, it just doesn't feel like your heart's really in college. And I was like, yeah, but it's just the right thing to do. College is it's the way you make a good living. It's the answer. It's ding, ding, ding. Attachment is thinking something is the answer. Something outside of you is the answer. I didn't, that's it. That's it. I believed college was my answer. And when you think anything is your whole answer, that's when you have an attachment, and 100% of the time it's holding you back. I promise. And so I said, it just feels like that's what I should do with my life. It's just practical, it's logical, it's what I should do. It was guilt. It was a decision based on guilt and fear that if I didn't do this, something bad would happen to me. I can't have a happy life if I don't do this thing. And he just seemed kind of sad, and he's like, I don't know, I just don't feel like that's really what you really want. It seems a little strange. And he was like, do you actually miss school? Like, really miss school? And I was like, no, I just feel like I have to be doing something, and I don't know what else to do. And he was like, just live your life. That's enough. He said, learn from life itself. You don't have to go to school to learn. And I was like, yeah, but, and, we had this whole conversation, and he was telling me everything I needed to hear, of course, because he's amazing. And I just got the twin flame feels. And I love that man. And he said, you know what I'm going to do if I ever really miss school? And I said, what? He's like, I'll go back to school. And he was just so carefree about it. He was like, maybe if I'm 40 and I really get that buzz to go back to school, then I'll go. But I was so stuck in this small space of the most successful people go to college right out of high school, finish within their 4 years, and then go off into the working world. That is the funnel of success. And I got off the train somewhere, so I have to get back on or I'm not going to be able to be successful. And I did end up moving back up to Minneapolis. And I moved right on back out 2 months later and back into my mom's house where I am now. And of course, as God would have it, when I moved back up there this second time, this most recent time, my roommates were all students at the University of Minnesota, and I lived on fucking campus. You can't make this shit up. God is perfect. He handled that perfectly. I had it in my mind I had to go to college to be happy. I had it in my mind I'm going back to Minnesota, and I'm probably going to finish my degree. I was convinced that this was my plan for my life, so much so that I left my twin flame to do it. I was so convinced. Speaking of which, I wasn't just attached to college. I was attached to the city of Minneapolis itself. Now that I'm really pulling this apart, I've had a ridiculous amount of attachments in my life. Like a ridiculous amount. So I also felt like Minneapolis was like this city that I was supposed to live in. Because I was attached to it. I was so attached to it. It was the first big city I ever visited, and I fell in love with it. I loved the energy and the tall buildings and the lakes and the parks, and I was like, this is where I need to be. I was experiencing God. And because I experienced God there, I thought God was only there. And so, yeah. So I moved to Minneapolis, thinking that that city and going back to school was the right path for me. And I went there and I realized it wasn't. There I was in the city of my dreams, the place I had wanted to be my whole life. And I was even living on campus at my like dream college. And it just all felt wrong. It all felt wrong. I realized that when I looked up at the sky at night, I couldn't see the stars because it's such a big city. I realized that what was so exciting about that city was the hustle and bustle of all the people, but I didn't know any of them, and so I just felt more alone. It's just, I had to go through that experience because I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go. And so I had to go up there and live there and walk around campus and realize for myself that my heart really wasn't there anymore. And of course, when I was up there, all I could think about was my twin flame and how something, my life was totally different and how I was seeing everything different. And, um, I just kept hearing that song, No Such Thing by John Mayer. I just found out there's no such thing as the real world. It's just a lie you've got to rise above. And my whole idea about college was shattered. My whole idea about how I wanted to live in a big city was shattered. My illusion, my attachment was revealed. And so when that realization fully hit me, I'm just having a really good time reminiscing about this right now. Because I remember when I was up there, I was looking up twin flame stuff, and it's so funny. Like, the same week that I moved to Minneapolis, I also bought Twin Flame is Finding Your Ultimate Lover. And this is just great. I haven't really stopped to think about all this in a long time. Oh man. Yeah, so the week I moved up there, I bought Twin Flame is Finding Your Ultimate Lover. And all I could think about was my twin flame and twin flames in general. And like I would like go to work and come home and like close myself off in my room and just research about twin flames online. And like, you know, he had blocked me on Facebook, so I was like majorly I was just going through a lot of stuff. And my dad and I had just gotten back into contact after like 10 years of not talking to each other. Crazy stuff. All my shit was being brought to the surface as it's meant to. But this is just one thing. I didn't think Minneapolis and college was going to be my main example, but uh, I chose Minneapolis, my attachment to that city and my attachment to the idea of going to college. I chose that over my twin flame. Ouch. Ooh. And because of that, we chose separation in the same moment. But of course, it was me. And I'm just kind of now really letting that sink in. I chose an illusion over the truth of what was standing in front of me. And so my twin flame did too. He was with a girl who was dating someone at the time, and he chose her. Just as I chose this illusion over him. And so, wow. That's what happens. And that's what will continue to happen. You can't have your twin flame if you would prefer your ideas or what you thought before. There's a beautiful quote by John Green, and it's something like, "You don't owe your past self anything. They don't exist, and you're smarter than them." So if you're honoring past choices and past ideas instead of what's in front of you now, then you're not with God, because God is now. Instead of seeing that I had just met the love of my life and honoring that, I chose to hold on to this idea I'd had since I was 12 of going to live in Minneapolis and have a successful career in the city after graduating from college. I wasn't honoring what was in my life now. And that same pattern is continuing to happen for me, and I have to let go. But why does it feel so bad? Because I don't trust God fully. That's the only way. If I trusted God fully, I wouldn't feel the need to hold on to anything. And so, another example is I found Twin Flame Ascension School, and I clung on to the idea of being a live student. And I had it in my mind that if I wasn't a live student, I would die. That's dramatic. I had it, I couldn't make peace with the fact that I wasn't a live student. I was like, I have to be a live student. I have to be a live student. I have to be a live student. Like, I couldn't let it go. And when I was in Sedona with Chrissy, I got to be in a live class, and one of the things at the end of that class, Jeff touched base with me and pointed out that I was feeling very disappointed that live class wasn't. He pointed out that I'd been putting being in live class on a pedestal, and therefore experiencing separation from God, because with God you're fully present in the now. And since I believed that I needed to be a live student in order to feel okay, I wasn't feeling okay in the now. And he pointed that out to me, and it was earth-shattering. And Chrissy and I talked about it afterwards, and she helped me work through it. And I realized that God had given me that opportunity for a reason, so I could compare being in the live class with watching the recordings. And I realized there wasn't a difference. There was no difference, and that's why I had felt disappointed. I was like, this is just the same as watching it on my own time. Like, what? And I thought there was something significant about it. And being a live student is a treasure and an honor and a joy and a privilege, and of course. But how unfair would it be for God to create this teaching that is supposed to ascend the whole planet, and there's billions of people on the planet, but only a select few get to be in the live classes? If the live classes were that much different than the recordings, then that would be super unfair. And like, that just wouldn't be fair. And God's not like that. And so you get just as much out of watching the recordings as you do being in the live class. Especially because there's weekly discussion groups now, and you can get personal coaching, and everyone's journey and relationship with the teaching and that community is going to be perfect and exactly what they need. And once, right now, it's like an uphill battle to get into your twin flame union. I don't know why my nose is so itchy. Gosh. It's right now, because it's so rare on the planet at this time. It's kind of like an uphill battle to get into your union. But as more and more of us come into our unions, it's going to be like a domino effect energetically. And so 10 years from now, I don't know how long from now, people aren't going to need like extensive babying and extensive it'll just get easier. So it makes sense that right now we're all requiring massive attention and help specifically. But so anyway, I worked through it with Chrissy, and I got to the point where I was completely at peace with not being a live student. I was like, I don't actually need that to succeed. I don't require that to be happy. And I got to such a place of peace with it. I was like, everything's fine the way it is. Nothing needs to change. And I felt so good about it. I I was with God there again. That place where I wasn't with God before. I found God and I communed with him there and I was in peace. And a month later, a live student vibed out of TFAS and I vibed in. So, why do I say all this? I had an attachment thinking that that was going to bring me the thing, but it didn't. It was only once I let it go that it actually came super fast. And this is the same with anything. And this is why attachment is bad, is because not only could you potentially be attaching to something that isn't for you, you also are preventing it from getting any closer to you. More examples from my life. So I personally enjoy examples from other people, so I like sharing mine too. And I have so many of these. So many. Um, uh, Being a writer, I was very attached to the idea that my life purpose was to be an author. Because when I was growing up, I used to write short stories all the time. I've written parts of novels. I've started writing like movie scripts. And I was good at it. I'm really good at writing, especially creative writing. And that's what I was studying in college too, is English and creative writing. And so not only did I pursue it in college, all 3 times that I went, I also took adult writing classes like that specialize in like fiction writing, short stories. Like I was full on convinced that I was supposed to be a writer. And that's why I was a journalist for a little bit too. And I'm just realizing now and remembering how much I really believed that that was it for me, is to be a writer. And well, what happened was I started writing songs a few years ago, and I let go of the idea of being specifically like a journalist, author, writer, and I opened it up to writing music, performing music. And I'm not a writer. I write, I love journaling. I love writing posts in the forum about my twin flame journey. I love writing to other people. Sometimes I'll sit and write a really long, detailed message to somebody for the purpose of guiding them. And I love doing that because I'm with God, right? And I'm channeling. But that's it. I just love being with God there. So so it's once again thinking that being a writer is how I get the good feeling. But it's not. I have the good feeling all the time. And I I do have the skill of writing very well, but I don't need to attach myself to it and make that my whole existence. That's so limiting. I let it go. But my writing is still fabulous, and I still like now I'm the editor-in-chief for our blog post at Twin Flames Universe. And so I get to help um I get to like people submit their blog posts and I get to edit them and make them perfect. And isn't that the best possible use of that skill? Really? My skill of writing that well isn't the best possible use of that helping perfect all the blog posts that are on Twin Flames Universe. I love that. It's probably like my favorite part of the job. No, no, I can't. I don't have a favorite part. Um, but what I'm saying is I still get to use that skill. That's what I'm trying to get at. When I let go of the attachment of wanting to be a writer, God got to bring me the perfect use and utilization of that skill. And so, yeah. If I, but I also get to do so many other things because your life purpose, God uses all of you. If you try to do what you want to do in your life and it's not God's purpose for you, it'll be very limiting. Because this is what I've been trying to do my whole life, is I find one thing I'm good at and I hold on to it. But God's saying, you're good at so many things. Let me put you in a position where you can utilize all of it and not be suction cupped to one specific thing. Same thing with music. So I started writing songs and I'm like, oh my God, I can write songs. And then I started performing at open mic nights and I was like, oh my God, I can do this. It was fun as fuck. And I love performing sometimes, not all the time. But it was like a new part of myself that I was discovering, that I could write songs and I could sing them and I could play them. And I love playing cover songs and exploring new layers of a song that I've heard 80 million times. And so I attached myself to, oh, I can do this, so I want to be a musician, just like I wanted to be a writer. And a few months ago, like I wrote a post on the Life Purpose class forum about how my whole life purpose is to be a musician. And Jeff said, it's not the way for you. You've got to let this go. And it's the same thing that happened with writing. I still write. Like I said, I write all the time. I am an excellent writer. It's just part of who I am, but that's not all of me. And so, actually, this is coming back around to like what inspired me to make this video. And I knew it was going to be a fucking hour-long thing. What inspired me to make this video is I found a picture of my twin flame. And it's this. Ooh, it's really glary. Well, Maybe that's really freaky. Look at his face. It's completely whited out. Maybe it's God trying to protect, like give him some privacy so you can't see his face. He looks like he doesn't have a face. Well, anyway, I found this picture of my twin flame, and I really wish you could see his face. Actually, this is important. There it is. Um, and I looked at it, and he's holding the guitar, and he just looks so peaceful. His relationship with music is peaceful. At least that's what I got from looking at it, right? So I found this picture earlier today, and I was looking at it, and I was like, that's it. I remember I was in the kitchen with him one night, and I was crying because I had come to this realization, and this all happens in layers, right? So I'm like, I came to this realization like a year and a half ago, and I'm still talking about it. Yeah, it's life is a process, learning is a process, healing is a process, onions. And it was the first time I had this realization. I said to him, I was like, I just don't think I want to pursue being a musician. Because what does that take? That's constantly going out and booking gigs. It's constantly, um, maybe investing in vocal lessons, maybe investing in guitar lessons. It means professionally recording your songs and like trying to get a label to sign you. It means potentially like collaborating with other musicians. It's a whole existence. It's a whole life. And I remember thinking about what it would take to really pursue being a musician. And I had a breakdown, and I said to Tom, I was like, I I'm just so upset because I'm kind of realizing I don't want to pursue. That's the key word, pursue being a musician. If he looked at me, he was like, yeah, me either. And he was so casual about it. Um, and just like in that picture, he's just holding the guitar. He's just being with music. He's just being with God. And I realized when I saw that picture that has been the problem the whole time. There's nothing wrong with the fact that I like to play guitar. There's nothing wrong with the fact that I write songs. What was wrong is I was never peaceful with music because I wanted something from it. I wanted it to do something for me. And yeah, Jeff has said all this to me, but you can be told something. You also have to come into it yourself. Um, and it's when I saw this picture, I was like, I've never been like that with music. I've never just been with it, which is why um, all that happened and it all came up for me to heal and look at. It's the attachment. And you know what? I know for a fact, I know for a fact that when I finally can really be at peace with music is the only time that I'll see any movement in that. I'm sure that Tom and I will record our songs one day and sell them. But that doesn't mean we're career musicians. It means it's a creative side project. Who knows what that could turn into? But the thought of being on tour all the time and living just that life is, it just seems exhausting. But the beautiful thing is, just like writing, just like being a live TFAS member, you attach to things that are important to you. Um, but it's in the letting them go that you actually receive them, ironically enough. Same thing with your twin flame, right? And so, if there's anything you're attached to in your life right now, and you'll know you're attached because you have a strong emotional reaction to the idea of it going anywhere or the idea of it not happening or the idea that something could maybe take it away from you at some point. Please use all these examples I've given, and I have so many more I could give, but I mean, the same thing happened with my live purpose class spot too. I think 3 to 4 weeks after I finally was like, you know what, I don't think I even want to be in live LPC anymore because I enjoy watching the recordings so much. Um, I don't I don't think I even want that. God gave it to me like 3 to 4 weeks later. Um, and I'm not saying you have to like be like, oh, I don't want it and like detach that way. That's just how I honestly felt. Is that it's about I don't need that because you don't need anything to be happy. And so if you feel you need that friendship, you need that car, you that's another thing. I was so attached to having a car. I thought it was the only thing that brought me joy. And so God took it away from me. I haven't had a car in a year and 4 months. And I mean, it's definitely not my preferred way of living. But it doesn't mean I'm never going to have a car again. I'm actually very much going to have a car again in the next few months. Um, it just, what non attachment is about is it's in that space that you actually have it all. It's, that line, if you love if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it was meant to be. If it continues to fly, let it soar. Have faith that God has something better in store. And so, by the very virtue of attaching yourself to something or holding on to something, you don't trust God fully yet. You don't trust God fully in that space. And that's where you need to look. If you're attached to a specific outcome, a specific time frame, a specific anything, you have to leave all the details up to God because it's God created you and God created perfectly. And you could not have created your twin flame for you. God did that. So if you can look at your twin flame and see how utterly perfect they are for you in every way, how could you not realize that God has literally done that for you in every area of your life? Every area of your life, if you align with God in it, is tailor-made for you and your joy and your full expression, your full peace, your full abundance. And if you want to hold on to your idea instead, you're going to experience a very severely limited life cut off from the totality of who you are and God. That was a lot to say. Yeah, so I saw that picture earlier and I was like, God, he's so peaceful. He's just with his music there. He's just playing guitar because he likes to play guitar. There's no ulterior motive behind it. He's not thinking, if I do this, then X will happen. If I do that, like, there's no, and that's one of the biggest things my twin flame has taught me. He was so casual about everything because I've never seen anyone with that much faith in God, and it's the sexiest fucking thing I can imagine. His total devotion and faith in God and God's plan for him is the most attractive quality about him by far. Well, that's all I had to say, I think. So, well, I actually have some cards to pull. If I can get the box open. And that's also why Jeff and Shirley are master teachers and why their classes are so good, is because they don't go into class with any kind of they don't go into classes with an agenda or an attachment. They roll with God. That's also where people get a little sticky in the area of clinging to their religion and not seeing that God is now. There's nothing wrong with reading the Bible or reading old stories of great spiritual teachers that have come before. I've never read the Bible. I don't know much about any spiritual teachers besides Jeff and Shalia. Although I've been kind of feeling interested to learn a little bit more about Jesus. I literally don't know freaking anything about any religion or any great spiritual masters. I read Siddhartha when I was like 11, but I think people cling to those old stories and they think God is there, or God is in church, or God is, in that book they're holding. And so they have an attachment to it, and they're missing out on the fact that the second coming is alive and well and like really far underway, and God is here and now. God's not stuck in that story from 1,000 years ago. I mean, of course, God is there too, but they're missing out on the now and the ascension that's happening right now and the glorious miracles that are happening right now. And so the more you can release your attachments, the quicker miracles can occur for you, and the more amazing experience of life you can have. Yeah, so I pulled the cards compassion and patience. Your dreams are blooming more rapidly than you realize. Still, they need nurturing and patience. And soften your heart. Well, the patience thing, what that's bringing up for me is I still have quite a bit of impatience, and I think things should be happening faster. And so it's because I'm not having compassion with myself for where I am and what I need in the moment. I would rather push things forward without regard to myself. Yeah, and so yeah, you have an eternity. You're never going to cease existing. And so if you I've had it in my mind that I wanted to release my first album when I was 24. And I'm going to turn 25 in a few weeks. And so I have felt a great deal of grief that I didn't meet that target goal. Or like I also was like, I want to be married by the time I'm 27. Or like I want to have graduated college by, 2016. And so all of these dates that I set, all of these um, all these schedules I set for myself, they keep coming and going. And it's because I'm not seeing myself as an eternal being. If I was seeing myself as an eternal being, I would have infinite patience and compassion for myself. But I'm sure that's something a lot of us do. We go, I want to reach this thing by this time. I want to, for me, it's always ages. And you just got to let all of that go because it just doesn't serve you. And the only reason you would feel the need to do something by a certain time is from a place of lack and a place of comparison. And that's all unhealthy anyway. Right? So, yeah. Or like, I want to be in union by this date. Oh, no. That's just, you want to be in union whenever it's perfect for you, right? Prioritize. Because there's like a divine order in everything, right? And so all of the things that you've ever wanted for yourself will happen, but there's a divine order to it. There's a season to everything. You are an eternal being and time is an illusion. However, you are a single focus point of consciousness moving through time. Well, moving through, you're on it. I don't think I've accessed enough of my infinite well of wisdom to really express this properly. But you have to do first things first. And so it's not the hottest thing on God's to-do list for me to release an album. It's it's just funny. It's just funny. It is on God's hot to-do list to for me to be in my union and for me to help this teaching spread. It's the urgent thing, right? Just like if you were in the middle of the woods and your arm was bleeding, you wouldn't be thinking about your next haircut or like a trip to the Bahamas. That's so far out ahead of all the other things that need to happen to get you to a place where you even consider that, because you're in the middle of the woods and your arm is bleeding. So you do first things first. And it doesn't mean all those other things aren't going to come, but like it says with the patience, it's God's timing. And if you don't trust God's timing, once again, you don't trust God. It's all making sense. I think I'm going to pull one more card. And if you've watched this whole thing, please comment on your thoughts. So I got sensitivity. You are extra sensitive to energies and emotions right now. Honor yourself and your feelings. And what I'm really getting from that is feel your feelings about it. I'm still feeling my feelings about being a musician. I'm still working through feelings of not having finished college. Why? Because I want to be present with myself. It's always about being present in the now. And one day, maybe 5 years from now, I'll wake up one morning and tune into my feelings and feel like, oh, I think God is actually guiding me to go back to school now. Okay. And then I'll do it. Just like Tom said to me, you know what I'm going to do if I ever really miss school? I'll go back to school. Whether he's 33, 52, whatever. Or I'll never go back. It's really about releasing control. As I said, it's about releasing attachment, as this whole video has been about. I looked down and it was 11111 for the time of recording. And so I must stop here at 111 or I will never forgive myself. Thank you for watching. And I was going to say please subscribe because that was like, for some reason, like embedded in my consciousness. But share your thoughts if you have any. Release your attachments and honor your feelings. And see you later.